Hello and welcome to the Real Biz Life Chronicles, where we discuss all things business, branding, and life. My guest today, I was blessed enough to meet him through WA Leaders. There is such a sense of peace that I get around this person, and he's always so jovial. I don't think I've ever seen him have a bad day. So it's very inspirational. He is the founder of Peak Consultancy, a results-focused business coach here in Perth. John Hardy, welcome.
Great to be with you on your show, Tracy. And I've been looking forward to having this conversation with you.
Yes, you and me both. Thank you so much for making time for us.
Yeah, it's great. I've done my work this morning. So my brain is free and I've had lunch. So yeah, it's great.
Fantastic. Well, I've had 3 coffees, so I'm good to go. John, I'd love to know if you could take us back. How did you find yourself in the business coaching space? Where did it all start?
Okay, it started in 1999 when I'd had a hit the wall moment where everything crashed and burned. So in the previous world, I was pastoring churches, and it stopped instantly over one weekend. And for myself, looking forward, what were the opportunities? And it didn't seem to me that was the next space to go forward. So I went and got a job because, I've got to look after my family.
Of course.
And I worked for Telstra for 18 months in their customer service guarantee as my wife and I began to really think about what we should do. And then we went away for a weekend to do some brainstorming. And we did, it was actually, we were only talking about this yesterday, that with somebody else, that we went away. We put all our pros and cons, what I thought. My wife put all her pros and cons, and then we began to eliminate them. And it ended up, my wife said to me, I still remember it, you would be good at engaged in coaching, mentoring. So I said, okay, let's do that. So that was as simple as it was. So we spent the whole weekend together, really thinking through that. But it was as simple as making that choice. And so I got an ABN, registered my business, and that was in November of, I think, 2000, when we registered the business. And then it was holidays, so went on holidays. But in January, kind of when people start to kind of wake up, I got all these emails and phone calls. John, can you? Nobody knew what I'd done at all. And so I got a contract to help an organization that had a dysfunctional part of it that had kind of separated itself from it and needed to be brought back to core. And so, unfortunately, the CEO was fired, and I was the interim CEO, and it was to put it back together again. And that was a really great project. A friend of mine in business said, John, I've got some processes that I need some help with. So he engaged me for 18 months, and I landed all these things that just confirmed this was, and I delivered. And so in 9 months, I turned this organization around that was dysfunctional. And I wanted to stay. But they said, John, you've done your job. We're gonna hire a permanent. That's right. We're gonna hire a permanent CEO. I said, okay, that's great. Because when you put your heart, soul, and mind to something, you really engage with it. So, and it was just a really cool gig. And then same with the business. He ended up establishing 2 new outlets for his company, and was just really thriving. So, and then I started to pick up individuals as well. I actually should look about who were some of the first individuals I coached. I think I'll go and have a look at my records, because I've kept all of those.
Oh, great. Yeah.
So I've got all my clients on file. So, and then it just unfolded. And so a mate of mine said, John, you would also be good in helping the business world on a regular basis. And he introduced me into business networking. And the rest is history. When you meet people, you talk to them, you find out they've got a problem or a pain, and, maybe I could help you. And I've helped probably hundreds of businesses over 25 years.
Yeah, incredible.
It's really, really cool. And,
Yeah.
for me, it's as fresh today as it was then, but I know I'm more competent than I was then because, you start out, you launch something brand new, you've got to put everything together.
Oh,
You've got to find
completely.
resources, you've got to find connections, all that stuff. You've got to build your systems.
Mm,
And so now I'm very comfortable in the space. So, but I'm excited still in what I'm doing today. Because
right.
it's great fun.
Yes. And John, something you mentioned, I just want to back up a bit. So you mentioned
Yeah.
that you went into this new space, new business, and you said that when January came around, you already had emails of people asking for your services.
Yeah.
And I know you're a person of faith as well, and I'm
Yes.
the same. And it is incredible when these things happen. Is that what
Oh,
the
yes.
testament to
For me,
that,
they were
or?
they were really God moments, Tracy.
Mm,
Really felt like God was telling Patty and I, my wife is Patty, and that this is what we should do. And it was like the language that we would use is confirmation. When you have that assurance, that confidence, this is what you should do. And so, yes, it was, I mean, it's out of the blue, unexpected, because we had no idea what we were going to do. We
no.
just knew we should do this. So, yeah, it was very, very cool in that happening for Patty and I. We bought a house, raised a family. It's been fun. Yeah.
Yeah, and she sounds like a great partner to do life with.
Yeah, she is. She's an amazing, very capable leader in her own right. Yes. She's about to step down from an executive that she's been on for 11 years, and they don't want to let her go, but it's part of board renewal, and she knows she needs to allow that to take place. So they've highly valued my wife being in that room. Yeah.
Mm. And John, I guess you mentioned the word confirmation. Was there also a sense of knowing, like deep within your soul, that this was the way to go?
Yes, it just when we're sitting there in the lounge room of this house that we were in for the weekend, and when we decided this is what we should do, it just went, okay, yeah, it just
Mm.
felt right. And it wasn't till later when I actually did some psychometric testing on what I'm doing that actually confirmed very clearly that I am wired to do this, and I can do it really well, and I know and understand it. So it sits very much both pragmatically and emotionally, but also spiritually. Very
Mm.
much fits me. And it's like anything. If you can find a job that you love and you get paid for it, that's what I've found. And it
Mm.
was accidental, but for me, it was incidental that this was the next part of God's plan for my life in going forward.
Mm. I had the same sort of moment when I asked for a sign and literally got it 2 weeks later. You know, when your eyes open,
Yes.
you see the sign. And yeah, it was just I dabbled with the idea for a little while, but just at that point, it was like just
Mhm.
a deep sense of knowing that this is the path that
Yes.
I'm meant to follow.
Yeah.
And again, I had 4 grand saved and was like not really sure of the next steps, but yeah,
Yeah.
just that deep sense of knowing that's what was next for me.
But that's always the case. We always, whether it's a spiritual thing or a business choice, there is a sense of faith that
Mm.
you actually have to step into as a leader in your organization. You've got to take that sense of risk, and you're stepping out into the unknown. So, for myself, it's very clearly indicated this was a step of faith into the unknown. And I still remember the Raiders of the Lost Ark when he steps into the canyon and there is no path. But as he steps, the path becomes clear. That's exactly how faith works.
Yeah.
And for Patty and myself, it actually became very clear how it was working. And, seriously, I've not looked back at all and have had great opportunities um, with so many different people, which has been really, really cool.
Yeah. And John, I'd love to touch on faith because what I've learned, I mean, I've tried to navigate life without God 3 times. Not, impressed to say that, but I find every time I've tried, I've failed. How has
Mm,
faith navigated your journey for you? Because I firmly believe as business owners, we need to believe in a higher power, whether it's God,
mm.
universe, Buddha, whatever. How has it guided your journey?
Well, for me, it's an integral part of who I am.
Mm.
very much so. So like, I read the Bible every day.
Mm.
I pray. I journal. So I journal my thoughts and my prayers.
Same.
So it's an integral part of how I think and breathe,
Mm.
of who I am as a person. And so it's made me very clearly a strong part of who I am is a very spiritual dimension. And because of the insights that are in that space, it's given me great clarity in the work that I do with people. Because I often get an insight into somebody's world. And, sometimes I say to myself, I wonder where that comes from, but I know where it comes from. It comes from God and his spirit showing me, giving me an insight and a strategy. And sometimes I've said to my clients, I have never said this to anyone else before.
Yeah.
This is what I'm saying to you, or this is the question I want to ask you. And I love those moments because they are incredibly creative, because they're designed for that person.
Yeah.
And that's why for me, having a very strong spiritual aspect to who I am in my business world, it really impacts my day to day, but it impacts my relationships with my clients and how I help them. Yeah.
Thanks so much for sharing. I always find it fascinating hearing that, someone else's faith
Mm,
journey as well.
yeah.
And John,
It's really
sorry.
important to me. Absolutely. Yes.
Yes, I'm exactly the same. It's really
Mm,
a foundation and really sort of drives me in what I do as well.
mm, very cool. Absolutely. It's great, Tracy.
And John, what are some of the biggest challenges you see business owners face?
I actually got asked that question today. And
Ah,
for me, it is, in just having a conversation with somebody, it is a lot of businesses have lack of clarity of thinking.
mm,
They've got lots of fuzziness because often businesses are throwing up many, many balls or spinning plates and hoping that they'll be able to keep them going. And it causes their thinking to be fuzzy. And so I love going into their world and helping them see clearer about where it is they really should focus their time, energy, effort, money, staff,
mm,
etc. Because when we think clearly, we actually really can change the world. And it's really interesting, Tracy. The research tells us about tennis players that the top 10 tennis players, the only difference with them and the top 100 is the way they think.
mm.
That's the difference.
Yeah, I can believe that.
That's the reason why they are top 10 is they think clearly about the objectives that they are about, and they think as winners. And that's why Novak Djokovic, etc., and Federer's and Nadal's have done what they've done systematically over, decades, because they think clearly and they think as winners.
Mm.
And the other 90 are striving to become like that, and they're trying to figure out, why do these guys always stay in the top 10?
Yeah.
That's the reason why, is because they have very clear thinking. And I love helping my clients get that focus and understanding into their world to know what it is that they really should focus on and what
Mm.
they really should give their attention to. And of course, it's just the strategy of your priority.
Yes.
Where do you spend your time, money, and treasure, your abilities? Where do you spend your energy? And understanding how you do that will actually enable you to be much clearer and therefore less stressed, less distracted, less discouraged, and less disappointed, because you actually know what you really should be about and what you shouldn't be about.
Mm. There was a great tool that you shared at Leaders. I think it was called like the strategic hour of
Yeah.
thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I thought that was so great because so many of us, we just go, 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 go the whole time and don't actually stop and think like on a much deeper level. And that's just been highlighted in those sportsmen that you spoke of.
I stole that from an interview. Well, yes, from an interview
Please be
of
honest.
well, from a retiring principal.
Yeah.
And she was asked the question, what would be the most enabling thing you could help us to do as leaders? And she said, communication. We fail to communicate and we fail to think effectively. And it got me thinking about that whole dynamic. So I talk to this about leaders all the time. They need to communicate more than they ever imagine they should. And then I begin to think, how can I help leaders think? And so I began to think about that,
Hmm.
in a sense, I created my own tool from thinking about how to think. And I looked at how I do it, and I just jotted those points down. And I realized, if I share this with people, this could really help them think.
Hmm.
And I often tell people it must be an out of office, away from distractions, and it's no electronics. This
Yeah.
really has to be a very not ethereal, a very touching feeling. There's a kind of, what is it?
Like a
There's a
centered
word,
approach, do you mean?
how
No.
we feel when we engage, tactile.
Yes.
Must be a very tactile engagement for you.
Hmm.
So that's why I encourage them to have a physical thing to write with and a physical thing to write in,
Yes.
but only to pick one thought
Hmm.
and to capture. So the beginning of the book is the thought. The back of the book is all the other thoughts,
Right.
because our white noise gets in the way. So capture all them down and get back to the thought.
Hmm.
And I've done that. And one of my guys did it, and he wrote a 22 point vision strategy for his business.
Wow.
Simply because he took time to think.
Yeah.
And so what he does now is he forgets to go back and remind himself. So my conversation with him is, when was the last time you read, in a sense, your mantra, your vision statement, your position statement, your future that you've written down? And it is incredibly inspiring.
Yeah.
And so I remind him, read it again. And it's great fun. Really, really powerful.
Yeah.
And it's not fuzzy, because he's got the statement and clarity to each of the statements about what they really mean and what the objectives are. So it's got, this whole SMART thing. It really is a
Yes.
very smart vision statement that's made, and it's in his personal journal, which he uses.
Yes.
So and I find that's really powerful for people. So yeah, thank you for that. And I know the power of thinking is critical for us, and to take the time to actually think. And so for me, with driving in between clients, I find it's great thinking time as I think through where I'm at, what's happening in my world, or where my client is at, what's happening in their world, and getting ready for that moment. I find those times, and also I swim. And so when my head's down in the water,
Oh, great.
you're breathing, all you want to do is you have that stillness, and it's really, really, really cool. And I find that incredibly empowering for my own life.
Yeah, it's something I've also learned, to carve out that time in your day to just actually, if it's through meditation, prayer, running, swimming, and just
Yeah.
really do that deeper thinking. But I still have that template, and I do journal in my journal about it. So thank you for sharing that. And in the summer, I sit on my lie low and I'll just think about stuff,
Yeah.
because it's really that deep thinking and not just rushing from point A to B.
Yes.
Don't get me wrong, I still have to catch myself sometimes. I go from point A to point B, podcast, all go. But just having that time to really think.
Yes. And I think if we as leaders will give ourselves permission to think, we will actually deliver the outcomes we want to deliver. But we've got that fuzziness in the world of meeting schedules and people schedules and invoice schedules and all the other dynamics that come crashing into our world.
Mhm.
And they're all important.
Yes.
But your thinking time, my challenge I give to my clients is, your thinking time is higher priority that will actually enable you. And I find it myself that when I've given myself more time, I'm more productive, and I can get through, the work. And I can sit for hours and do the work and feel like, wow, that was a really, really good productive time. When I don't, I find it drags and it's laboring. I still get it done, but it's just much, much harder. It's because I haven't given myself permission to think and free my brain from all the stuff that's in there, that's why I call it white noise. So my background is electronics, and I grew up with televisions that were not the screens we have now, that they were valve operated, they were CRTs. And so when it went off, it was this white noise. And so for me, it really gave me I know how I can describe that.
Mm.
And of course, they talk about white noise helping babies go to sleep.
Yeah.
But it's an interference. That's why it's used. It's an interference to help them be distracted from, so they can, in a sense, focus on going to sleep. And so
Makes
that's what
sense.
white noise does to us. It's a distraction from purpose.
Yeah. And John, what would your advice be to someone? Because I'm a big advocate for journaling, and
Mhm.
especially in the big advocate for business coaching and business advisory. I believe everyone should be working with a coach or advisor
Yeah.
in some capacity. What advice would you give someone who says, like, I'm time poor, I'm rushing from A to Z, I'm working 16-hour days? How would you suggest that they carve out that time to actually, do that deeper thinking? Would they time block it in their calendar, or what would be a starting point for that?
Yeah, you have to actually put it in your calendar.
Mm.
Give yourself permission, and I suggest just start with 1 hour a week. Don't overdo it, because you don't know the results, and you've got to get past white noise till you begin to think clearer. And it takes repeated sessions so you can get to that thinking point quicker,
Yeah.
because you've cleared that stuff. And so I write my stuff down. Um, like in meetings, I wrote a note to my wife out of a meeting, and she sends back to me, "What do you mean?" And so it was just my thought with
Yeah.
no explanation. And so I said, then I sent back to her, "This is what was going on. This is what I was thinking. This is what I mean."
Yeah.
So I capture my thoughts, because then I can then refocus into what I really need to do to pay attention. But don't, because it's not about jumping through hoops or getting goals. It's about how we train ourselves to actually be better, because we want to it, but
Mm.
we sometimes don't know how to get there. So 1 hour a week, and if you can do 2 hours a week, I mean, an hour, a solid hour where you're in that tactile experience,
Yes.
and then you just journal your thoughts, and
Mm.
they will be random. But what I found is this: they're random, but they're actually giving you understanding about how you think. And you will review them and say, right, that's why this, and you'll get an insight. But it's to clear the way so you can actually delve into the depth of you as a person, because you are amazing. I mean, I love networking because people are amazing,
They
and
are.
who they are and what they're about and what they're interested in. Like, I remember meeting one of our ladies at WA Leaders, who is a scuba diver, and she's in
Mm.
marketing. So you know who I
Yes,
mean.
I know who you're speaking of. Yeah, I am.
She scuba dives, and I mean, serious, and photographs. And I mean,
Yeah.
that was so really, really cool. So
Mm.
yeah, I love finding the interesting things that people are interested in, because that makes us interesting.
Yes.
I love words. I don't get to use the words that I love, but I love the power of words.
Mm.
When you construct words clearly, you actually give a clearer message. I mean, that's why, for me, I like somebody like Jordan Peterson, because he writes so challengingly
He
with his
does.
language, and it makes you really pay attention to the words of what he's trying to argue his case for. So I find him, and I'm halfway through one of his books at the moment,
Right.
but his principles are simple. I
Mm.
mean, everybody knows the principles, but the journey he takes you on really helps you refresh and reframe your thinking, which is really important for us. So for me, the other dynamic is, if we're not reading, we're not learning.
Yeah. That's good.
And so I have my books, and so Jordan's one of them. I'm reading Jessica, the West Aussie girl who sailed around the world.
Mm.
So her book is really interesting about the story growing up as a young girl, fascinated with sailing,
Yeah.
and even as a very young girl, dreaming of sailing around the world. And I think she was a teenager when she did it. I mean, wow, it's really, really cool.
Incredible.
So, yeah, so I found, when I went through my library, that I read lots of biographies. I
Mm.
have probably majority of my no the larger percentage of my books are biographies, and
Yeah.
I hadn't realized I was doing that, because people are really interesting.
They
So yeah,
are.
yes.
Definitely. And that's one of the reasons I started the podcast as well, just
Yeah.
to showcase, business owners' journeys and that personal story, because no one's story is exactly the same. And, there could be one golden nugget that someone shares and
Yeah.
changes someone's entire
Yeah.
trajectory of their
Yes.
life, which is
That's
really
right.
exciting.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's that one thought that connects to you, isn't it?
Mm.
That will help a person listening to this. If I did that, or if I was less this, or yeah, absolutely. And that's what we want to do to help people. Yeah.
And John, as business owners, we always have 101 things going on. I guess for someone who's in those first initial years of business, where would you recommend that they do focus their time? Because I think, most people don't quite know where to start, or they don't quite know what to focus on. They're trying to do their numbers, lead a team, build their systems, look after themselves
Mm.
and their family. And there's just this myriad of things that pop
Yeah.
up. Where would
Yes.
you suggest that they start?
Well, the reality is, if you have no clients, you don't have a business.
Mm,
Okay.
true.
So you have to do, so I've got 4 Ps. So prospects, process, people, profits.
Mm,
Um, so you've got to build your front end so you have your back end. What I find a lot of business people starting is they start with process. I've got to build this system, got to get that happening. But I think there's to a degree that's important. Like, if you're a company, you've got to get that set up right. Your ABNs and all those things are really important for compliance and or good structure.
mm,
But I think businesses need to figure out where in the market do they connect. What is the market? We've got 2.5 million people in WA, thousands of businesses. Who are you for them, and who are they for you? And it's really clearly to understand that space. So I've come across business coaches who only do accountants.
mm,
That's it. They don't do any other business whatsoever. A business coach is who only focus on money. Business coaches who only focus on marketing. And it's really cool
mm.
that people learning to understand your strength is really important. So my strength is I can connect to people, and I can read, know, and understand the person really easily and really well.
Mm.
And so that's why I focus on business leaders. Whatever the widget might be is irrelevant to me. So that's what I understood I was really good at. So that's where I focused my time and my energy in that space. And once you kick a few of those goals, it gives you the confidence to press forward and to build into. But I think in today's opportunity, don't hire staff quickly.
Mm.
Resource yourself with the great resources that are around us now. People in starting business today, AI is a phenomenal tool.
It is. Yeah.
VAs are phenomenal tools.
Yes.
So I've encouraged my clients to build the right kind of people they need, but outsource.
Mm.
Free you up from your weak areas that you don't need to spend on, and spend where you need to spend your energies into. But fundamentally, we have to build into the world in which we live clients who will actually help us, basically finance this, so we actually can do all the rest.
Yeah.
Then you can outsource. Then you can do those things. But understand who you are and what your niche is, where you really want to focus, because there is plenty of people out there that need your skills and abilities.
Yeah, it's funny. I actually had a conversation with someone yesterday. They're in that first year, and they said that exact thing, that they're busy building out their processes. And I was like, I would just be focusing on networking, like just getting out there, fill that funnel, get your face out there. And they're like, oh no, my
Yeah.
process. And I was like, oh, it's exactly what you just said now. I'm like, you have to
Yeah.
get sales in the door and have some sort of cash flow. Otherwise, there
Yeah.
is no process.
That's right.
Mm.
And there's enough good people and or systems or, good CRM. Some of the CRMs today, what they can do are phenomenal.
And
And they can automate so many things.
Mm.
You've got to have a little bit of cash to go and pay your monthly fee for your CRM and for a good VA to help you. Absolutely. So clients are really important, because that's how you will build your business once you know and understand who your clients are, and then really take care of them.
Mm.
You know, yes, they fund you, but they are really important to them. So be really important to them. Take care of them, look after them, follow them up, be kind to them, be courteous, be thoughtful, go out of your way for them. Whatever you can do, it's amazing what people do. So I've got a new contract with a guy I worked with maybe 7 to 9 years ago.
Okay.
But because I did a good job, he's been working in a new organization. He says, I've finally convinced them what you did for me then, because he's changed role, you can help us now. And so it's great. So went out of my way, just looked after, made sure the outcome was what they were expecting. And it comes back to you in spades. So, there's a biblical principle. If you cast your bread on the water, after many days, it'll come back to you. Or if you sow, you'll reap. Farmers do that. They sow seed. And then they don't quite sit back. They've got lots of other things to do, but they wait wait for it to germinate. And like, I'm actually working in Narrogin on a project in a church. And to be down there and watch what takes place when they've tilled the soil and put the seed in, and the rain came right at the right time. Yeah. And one of my farmers I'm working with, he said, and they're so laconic and so understated. I think it's germinated pretty well. And his fields are green. I mean, and it happens so quickly. I was shocked how fast, once they've planted the seed and rain comes, how fast it grows. But it's going to take till November, December for it to actually be ready.
Yeah.
But it does take time. And so be patient. Be patient with yourself. Don't be impatient. I've seen it over and over again where people have been in business and they've run too fast and they create a vacuum behind of them that nobody's filling.
Yeah.
And that vacuum comes to bite them on the bum, and that actually can blow up the business. So be patient with yourself. Take your time and build for the long term. Don't build for tomorrow. Build for 5, 10, 15 years time, 20 years time. Think about that. Dream about what that could look like. And like we said earlier, write it down. I can tell you it works. It just works when you write it down.
Agreed. I am a big fan. But thank you for sharing that, John. That is something that I am working on because I am extremely impatient because I am so driven. But again, it's, when you're used to it, when you're wired a certain way, trying to take the foot off the petrol, it's kind of hard to know the fine line, because if you have big goals and you want to achieve great things and, and a lot of these, motivational speakers say like massive and immediate actions, you kind of grasp onto that and off you go. But my patience is something I'm really working very, very hard on, because I realize stuff doesn't have to happen tomorrow or like right now. So,
but this is the urgent, important quadrant. We must live out of the important quadrant, because that's when we're strategic.
Yeah.
If we operate out of the urgent quadrant, we actually are operating in a totally opposite dynamic to what really is strategic, and it's detrimental to ourselves.
Definitely.
And I found that, totally. And we often underestimate simply doing what's important. Plan, think clearly, be strategic, is really, really powerful, because I found this over and over again. Most things are not urgent. They're just not urgent.
John, for our listeners, do you mind to explain the the 4 quadrants, please?
Absolutely. So you've got important, not urgent in the top right-hand corner. In the bottom left-hand corner, you've got urgent, not important. Top left is urgent and important, and bottom right is not urgent, not important.
Yeah.
So what I'll do is I'll send a copy of that to you. So
please,
if you want to put it up on the notes,
yes, would love
and
to.
People can download it, because it's it's a free resource. It's everywhere. But the one I use has got some very clear breakdowns on it that are really helpful to understand why do we sit in that space when we want to know why we're doing what we're doing, It's understanding that. So let me see if I can just quickly, because I've
Yeah,
got it
thanks,
in
John.
my tool folder, which, when I first started in business, what I was saying about systems, I really did not have this kind of resource.
Mm.
And now, I mean, I've got folders. And so I can go there and pull it up and walk you through it in greater clarity. So
Yeah.
the quadrant you want to is quadrant 2, which is the focus quadrant,
Yeah.
which is really cool. And that's where you opportunity planning, critical thinking, strategies and values, considering the macro. So it's really important. So that's where you are important, not urgent,
Mm.
because it's the micro that distracts us,
Totally.
steals the time, and makes us ineffective. Where the opposite quadrant, the avoid quadrant, which is when we are urgent, not important,
Mm.
it is pulling us against being focused, because
Yes.
we're going into avoiding what really is important, what we really should apply ourselves to. And that's, you like this. It's illusion and deception. This is what we do. It's not your emergency, and it minimizes your investment, and it's interruption to the work. Now, a lot of people sit in the manage quadrant, which is crisis and pressing problems.
Mm.
Everything is urgent, important and urgent.
Yeah.
And this is where we burn out, because we're running off adrenaline
Yeah.
and we're
Been there.
constantly pulling it up,
Mm.
rather than living off serotonin, which is much more thoughtful and intentional. And so when we're in the managed area, it's crisis, pressing problems, demand, necessity, daily firefighting.
Share your screen. Sorry, I should have asked before. Did you want to share
Yes.
your
Yeah.
screen? I'll just sorry, give me 2
I can do
seconds.
that.
I'll just there we go.
Yep. Let me do that. Make it nice and big.
Thank you.
It's okay. All right. So, um, okay. So I know where to go. There it is. Green button in the middle.
Okay.
Cool. Here we go.
Great. Thank you.
Uh,
Oh, that's a great one.
yes, it is. This is a really, really cool one. So this is where we should sit.
Mm.
Focus, strategies, values, opportunity planning. So cool. Important, not urgent. This is where we avoid. It pulls us against being focused. This is where a lot of people sit, and they live in crisis, demand, necessity. They think it's important and urgent.
Yeah.
And then when it's not important, not urgent, this is where we escape. It's waste. It's only entertainment, and it limits our effectiveness.
Mm.
So I encourage people to stay in this quadrant here, in your focus quadrant, because that's where you will do. If you sit them in 80% of your time, because these things will happen from time to time,
Mm.
you will find you will do yourself so much better, and you'll be so more effective, and you'll be happier with yourself.
As
So
well.
I'll send that to you, and so you can
Yeah,
share that
please.
in the
Thank you,
notes.
John.
Yeah, not a problem.
Yeah,
And
the
I
pro
use
yes.
that because, like, it's interesting. You find things that people need, and it's one of the things I printed off that I keep in my bag with me to easily pull out and give to people.
That's
So when
great.
I talk that through with them, they can see it really easily. So yeah, it's really
Yeah,
cool.
it's a powerful tool. I know the first time I did that, how's this for mindset? Everything just went in the urgent box. I'm like, it's all important. Like I have to
No,
just get through it all.
stop
And
it,
then the
Tracy.
person, I know, this was me probably 2.5 years ago before I got an
Yeah.
advisor. And then they explained, well, if you actually sit and ask yourself, is XYZ really urgent? And you think about it, well, no, it's actually not. So it can then, but yeah, it was such a like, well, it's all urgent, has to happen now. But again, just having that deep understanding of how to actually use that tool and
Totally.
prioritize things was very, very powerful. But thank you for sharing that with us, John.
Because what we do, Tracy, we feel the demand and expectation of others.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we actually have to learn this. This is one of my other little sayings, Tracy. We have to learn to look in the mirror and see ourselves
Yeah.
and celebrate ourselves. And when I discovered that for myself, it liberated me from judgment and condemnation on myself and or that I thought others might have. And it freed me to be me. So when I first did my psychometric testing, I came up as a choleric.
Right.
So, and the negative attributes of a choleric with some phlegmatic tendencies.
Mm.
And that kind of did me under until my coach said to me, John, do you realize there are positive attributes to the character traits that a choleric or a fast-paced person or a high D is? And I goes, no. So tell me about it. And he says, for arrogance, it's not arrogance, it's confidence. I guess, oh. And he walked me through them. I guess, oh, of course there is. But all I saw was the negative side, which is what we do to ourselves. So the way we think ineffectively, we see ourselves wrongly, and we have to learn to think better about ourselves. Yeah. And when I did that, I guess, okay, I need to deal with arrogance. Arrogance is not good, but there's nothing wrong with being confident about who you are, but don't let it be tempered with humility. And, like in Good to Great, they discovered that good to great leaders were both courageous and humble. They were the two character traits, and humility is a very, Jesus resurrected the language from humility being a put down to lower somebody. So you actually do it to yourself. You lower with confidence yourself for the sake of others. And so once I understood that, it freed me from that kind of thinking about what I'm thinking other people are thinking.
Yes, yeah, it makes
stuff,
sense.
which is what we all do.
Yeah.
And it just freed me up big time. And I was just so stoked. And I would encourage people. So the language is not to think more highly of yourself, but to think respectfully of yourself, because you are an amazing person, and be confident, but look in the mirror and see yourself and celebrate yourself. It's really cool.
That is. Thanks
and
for
I found that
John.
incredibly liberating, really liberating.
Yeah, I was actually listening to a podcast the other day, and the lady shared that a lot of people actually, because they are trying to be so humble, which is great as well, they almost underestimate their own value in some way. So do you have like a daily practice that you go through? I know Mel Robbins will like high five herself in the mirror every day. Or is that part of your journaling practice? Or
so I constantly have language going on inside of myself about me. So I've learned to memorize affirmations, and some of those affirmations are biblical texts, and they just do me good, remind me of who I am. And for me, I believe that every person is incredibly uniquely created by God for a uniquely created purpose. And so language like that is, I am created by God, fearfully and wonderfully made. And so I have this language inside of me. So like you said earlier on about me being jovial, it's because I really have resolved my own self stuff. And I recognize, I'll tell you all my weaknesses. I'm transparent. I know I've got them. I sometimes don't listen effectively to my wife.
Yeah.
Because I live in my own world, and she says something, and it just doesn't register.
Yeah.
And so I've made mistakes, and I've done the wrong things, and I've not followed through, and I've been poor with my attitude, and I've been angry, but I've understood how to deal with those things and forgive myself, and then work at just doing it better.
Yeah.
And that's why, for me, the teachings in the scriptures really help me understand how to live as a good person. And that's what I do. And I have those thoughts. So I don't necessarily have them written down, or I don't have a high five list or whatever. It's an internal language I've cultivated that sits inside of me. And I do it all the time, try to see. And it's become part of my ethos in how I live as a person.
Yeah, and it sounds like it's a focus as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And so when the challenges come, because I know those things about myself, they are challenges still, but
Yeah.
they don't necessarily beat me up and put me down. I
Mm.
just got to deal with them in a way, or get some guidance, or talk to somebody, or do some research, or think about stuff, or, um, but take it on,
Mm.
and not let it doesn't, it's very rare that challenges overwhelm me, because I looked in the mirror and I saw myself and I celebrate
Yeah.
who I am and how God made me. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's extremely powerful.
Mm, it's pretty cool. But I
Yes.
think if every single one of us understood how to value ourselves and release ourselves from condemnation and judgment and the negative thinking, because here's the reality: the speech nerve is the central nerve to our whole nervous system.
Mm.
So when we speak negatively, we're actually impacting our whole
System.
physiology
Yeah.
negatively. And we
Well,
wonder sometimes why we feel crook, because I feel crook, I feel crook, I feel crook. Well, yeah,
you've
you're gonna be.
loop.
So it's really powerful to do yourself good by
Mm.
speaking good about yourself to yourself, both out loud is powerful, but also internally
Mm.
to yourself. And I think a lot of people need to learn to do it out before they can do it in.
Yeah.
I can do it in because I've done it out.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, you know what I mean?
I know
So
exactly what you
saying
mean.
it out,
Hmm.
speaking it out, saying those things. That's why I have people who do regular affirmations. They have their cards
Yeah.
and they regularly say those things about themselves. So they're saying it out so they hear it. And it's
Mm.
really, really powerful. So their whole body is actually engaged in hearing things about themselves and what they want to say about themselves. Very, very powerful. And so it goes
Definitely.
back to that point at the beginning about how
Yeah.
we think. It
Yeah.
really does help how you think.
100%. One of my team members shared a reel with me. It was a lady, she was speaking about how she used to like always, wake up straight into negative thought process, all these catastrophic ideas. And she just told herself one day, my name is, XYZ, and wonderful things happen to me. And she just repeated it on a loop. And she said she couldn't believe the transformation in her life just from those positive affirmations that she just kept telling
Yes.
herself. And now that you've
Yeah.
explained our nervous system and everything, that makes total sense. So it's very, very
Yes.
powerful.
It is very powerful because
Mm.
it changes your perspective, how you see the world and how the world sees you,
Mm.
which is really important for us. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I've even got my affirmation cards that I draw every Monday, and it's good to have them next to me
Good
here.
girl. That's great.
Yeah, one of my
Yeah.
previous business coaches got me into it. So the one I have today is there is no force more powerful than a woman determined to rise. So that's
Go girl. That's
my focus for
fine.
the week.
Totally. It's really important to say that because it will actually help you rise. Totally. And
Yeah.
yeah, I
Especially in
celebrate
those
that.
challenges.
Yes. Yes. That's right.
Yeah.
Because we all meet strangers, don't we, Tracy?
Oh, definitely.
We're meeting strangers all the time, but when we're kind to ourselves and we're kind to them, there is that sense of easier connection because they trust us better because we're not being judgmental. Because
Mm.
people pick up the spirit that we carry.
Yes.
They pick it up, even though they don't say it and sometimes don't discern it. They actually are picking it up and discerning it
Definitely.
subconsciously. And so we read each other all the time.
Yes. Definitely. And like I say, whenever I'm around you, it's very peaceful, very happy. So it's yeah, hands down.
Thank you. You're very kind.
John, I'd love to ask a question on faith, if that's okay.
Yes. Yeah.
So I often get asked the question of how do I know that God is real? I'd love to know your answer.
Okay. It really is a step you have to take. So
Hmm.
for the fundamental, it is about, for me, the Christian faith, and that is
Hmm.
Jesus Christ is real.
Yeah.
So the language is he's either a liar, a lunatic, or Lord.
Right.
Right? So was he a real person? Absolutely. History proves that Jesus Christ was a real living person. And history proves that he did die and he did come out of the grave, like the Bible talks about. All of that is historically proven.
Hmm.
But even despite, even in light of having historical facts, he's not around today.
Hmm.
He's not here. So what does it take for me? I have to personally believe the truth that the Bible teaches, that Jesus Christ is God who died for us so he could bring us back into relationship with him. And it takes that personal faith to believe that. And every single one of us actually have to make that decision to actually be able to do that, to believe that the Jesus of the Bible and the Jesus of history really did all of that because he loves and cares for us, because he wants the best for us, because he created us for our best. But without him, we cannot be our best.
Yeah.
And that's what I found. My daughter, I've got a ping on my thumb. My daughter's just come out of surgery.
Oh, right. Is she okay?
Yeah, she's just having surgery on her little finger.
Oh,
It
right.
got broken and needed to get fixed and stuff. So
Oh, okay. I'm glad she's all right.
it's really cool.
Oh,
Yeah, it's really cool. And it's a personal thing that you actually have to do. And I just encourage people, read the New Testament and read the Gospels, read the story of Jesus, read what he says and ask yourself, how does this sit? And it has a profound impact on us. And so I would just encourage people to read the story of who Jesus is that is found in the Bible, but it will demand you and I have to make that personal choice. And I've made that personal choice and live in that every day.
yeah. Thank you for sharing.
Yes.
The other thing I get is that, well, if God exists, why does he let bad things happen? What I often say is often through those hardships, God's molding us into the person that we're
Oh,
meant to be.
absolutely.
Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. I've made so many mistakes, but I've learned that because of them, it's challenged me to deal with me.
Mm.
Like in
To that.
marriage, incredibly selfish and self-centered. And one day I realized I married this lady because I love her. So
Yeah.
why don't you demonstrate that? Demonstrate your love. And so my wife likes a clean kitchen and all that kind of stuff. And so I do that because I want to let her know I love her.
Yeah.
Not to clean the kitchen for the clean the kitchen, but I want her to know I really think about her and what's important to her.
Mm.
And so it's really powerful to do that. So the challenges we face when we make mistakes and fall on our face, like in 99 when I struggled, I hit the wall, it challenged me to deal with me.
Mm.
And I am a better person because of that. My son has gone through cancer twice. Paddy and I are better people for that. He's now 30. What is he? He's in his 30s, 38. So, healthy,
Yeah.
great guy, got a family. But,
That's
that was when
great.
he was 4 and 5 years old.
Wow. So young.
So those challenges come. But if you learn, and for me, Tracy, my faith helped me, and my prayer helped me, and people around me who prayed, and what I learned in the Bible helped me. But I had to confront me. That's our biggest challenge, Tracy, is
Agreed.
confronting ourselves.
Yeah.
So as much as I said we've got to look in the mirror and see ourselves having confidence, but we've also got to be willing to recognize most of the time we are the problem.
Mm.
And if we are willing to forgive ourselves and work on ourselves and be kinder to ourselves and be more thoughtful about ourselves, we actually can allow those challenges to help us be a better person. And therefore, if that's the case, we really are going to have a better world because
Yes.
we are not as selfish and self-centered. We're actually more thoughtful about others because everybody goes through stuff that's challenging.
Yeah.
And be kind to them, help them, support them. Yeah.
And John, people who might be feeling that they're almost too far gone, they've made too many bad choices, they're at rock bottom, what would be your words of advice to them?
Well, the guy on the cross, Jesus said, "G'day, dude. You believe in me, you can come with me now." So it's never, ever. And we sometimes do that to ourselves, Tracy, where we say it's too late. It's never too late.
Yeah.
Any of us can, and many people do at all sorts of stages of life, can actually make the changes and adjustments if we are willing. And it just takes that. And I've often done this with my clients, that when they engage me, they're 50% of the way there to actually improvement because they've made a choice.
Yeah.
So make that choice. It's never, ever too late to actually make that choice of faith. ever. And it's never too late to actually become and deal with the stuff that's in your world. It's never too late. There's just too many stories over and over again that down through the years that I've heard, and can't think of any at the moment, but where people have just been radically changed because they've been willing to make that choice. I do need to change and I will confront me. Yeah.
And it's terrifying, but extremely brave. And there's a saying I love. It says you're always one decision away or one choice away from a completely different life.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Don't do it alone. There is
No.
many, many good people. And I think sometimes this is what we do to ourselves. And that's why having companions to work with and walk with is really powerful. Girls do it better than us blokes. But blokes, I just encourage you, get a couple of mates.
Agreed.
Do life with them. You know, go hang out, go for walks, go surfing, go fishing, whatever. But just do life together. Because I know my son with his mates often, if they're out camping, often talk about faith.
Yes.
You know, around the campfire, you know, what's this world really all about? And they have deeper meaningfuls because you're stopping to think.
Yeah.
And all the other stuff is kind of out of the way now. You know, what do we really want to do with our lives and what impact do we want to make? So yeah, find a couple of mates and do life with them. It's great fun.
Yes. And go camping. That's really fun.
Yes, go camping. Yes, absolutely. It's great fun. Yes.
John, where is the best place for our listeners to go should they wish to connect with you?
So very simply, just go to my website and drop me a connect point there, and happy to catch up with you and meet for a chat. No other conditions on that. Happy, a good coffee probably is the condition. But happy to chat and talk because I really do enjoy talking and meeting with people. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So on my website, just do that and it will be great. Yeah.
Great. We'll definitely pop all the links in the show notes as well. And then what we'll do with the quadrant that you shared, we'll see if we can link it in the show notes or put in the social posts. And we'll add it in our Design Studio Perth newsletter as well for people to.
If you want to do that thinking one as well, strategic hour, you can do that. Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, great. Thank you so much, John.
My pleasure.
Well, thank you so much for your time and thank you for all that you've shared as well.
Yeah, thank you, Tracy. It's been a delight to share with you.